control the vertical.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today I'm covering a series called Tales of the Unexpected. No, not that one, not the Roald Dahl one. This is a series made by Quinn Martin. Quinn Martin was a TV producer, very, very big in sort of 60s, early 70s American TV. He ran a number of quite famous shows. The one I remember most as a child is probably one called the FBI. I remember it very, very, very distinctly. But he did, as I say, a number of quite famous shows. I think he did Cannon, for example. Yes, he did Cannon. He did The Invaders, the FBI, as I mentioned. The Streets of San Francisco was probably his most famous one that people may remember. But he was involved in a lot of shows. Now, he had these shows had a very distinctive style. I always remember they had an announcer speak over the beginning credits, and they said things like, that sound incongruous now, like in colour. And if you watched the comedy series Police Squad, their sort of intro credits are pastiches, very heavily pastiching Quinn Martin Productions. So that's worth knowing, right? About that. Now, so, Tales of the Unexpected, Quinn Martin's Tales of the Unexpected, ran on American TV, first aired on February the 2nd, 1977, through to August the 24th, 1977. There was only one season and 8 episodes. There was a few more planned, but I guess it didn't work out. It's intended to be like a horror and sci-fi anthology series, and when it aired in the UK, they gave it the title Twist in the Town. Now, I don't know when it aired in the UK, but I assume it aired much later than 1977, presumably once Tales of the Unexpected, Roald Dahl's version, had already started airing, so I guess that name change was because of that. But I don't know for sure. I can't find any timings for this, so I can't confirm it. Now, this one was narrated. I mentioned Quinn Martin Productions were famous for having like this male voice telling you about the production, the name of the episode, and so on at the beginning. This doesn't have that, but it does have some narration, and narration's by William Conrad, the man who played Cannon. And there is a touch of that on this. Now, the one I'm going to be reviewing tonight is called The Nomads. As we're going through this season of Anthologic, let's call it that, I try to do the very first episode of every series we're covering, the exceptions of course being The Outer Limits, Twilight Zone and Night Gallery, where I'm being much more thorough, but pretty much every other one I've tried to do is the very first episode, except for the places I couldn't get the first episode because it's just unavailable. Now this is the case for this one. There's appears to be no existing episodes apart from the one I'm going to be talking about, and this one I'm going to be talking about is on YouTube. No others appear to be available in any format, available on YouTube or in any other way. So this was the only one. If I wanted to cover this series, this is the only one I can talk about. So this we're never going to revisit this one unless somehow it gets turned up, but even then probably will not. This was episode 4, The Nomads. It first aired on February the 23rd, 1977. It was written by Earl Wallace, based on a story by Anthony Wilson, apparently not credited, and I'll explain where that story came from shortly. Directed by someone called Alan Reisner. Now, The Nomads is a story about a man seeing a UFO and then getting sort of sucked into a conspiracy, hidden details and stuff like that. And apparently it was quite an extensive reworking of the pilot of the TV show, The Invaders, which I think is where the story by Anthony Wilson credit comes in. Now, The Invaders is a great little show. It's kind of a precursor of the X-Files. It's about a man who finds out aliens are secretly invading or present on Earth, and no one really believes him. In many respects, it's kind of a forerunner almost of the Hulk or Kung Fu, a man wandering, being sought after, but wandering and getting into adventures. That's kind of what The Invaders is kind of like. Now, this was a reworking of the pilot. I haven't seen the pilot, so I can't tell you how similar or different it is. So it is. It's a 50-minute episode. Like I say, you can get it on YouTube. The main star is called David Burney. I recognise his face. I googled him to find out more, and the reason I remember him is he played in the TV series of Serpico. There was a movie with Al Pacino, but there was also a follow-up TV series about a rebel cop, apparently based on a real person. And David Burney played Serpico in that series, which is why I recognise him. I think he also turns up in a lot of 70s TV shows, stuff like The Love Boat, Charlie's Angels, Ellery Queen, maybe Columbo, possibly, that kind of thing. So I suspect he's in various other shows. Apparently he was in Murder, She Wrote, Hawaii Five-0, Fantasy Island, Macmillan and Wife. Okay. So I kind of was reasonably close there. And essentially, a man has a crash and he imagines he saw a flying saucer. And there's also, he sees a man and a woman sort of arguing about there's so many children or something like that. And he kind of gets knocked out. Anyway, there appears to be some sort of conspiracy. So, that's not where you were. This happened, and he kind of denies it. And it builds and builds and builds. Essentially, he gets to the bottom of there are aliens. They're just trying to find somewhere they can stop for a while because their home planet is not good. But it's kind of, is that true? Is there more going on? And there's some kind of cool stuff. The build-up of the conspiracy is very, very well done. I quite liked it. It was kind of, the tension definitely built. I did laugh, though. There was one point he gets inside a UFO, and it is... Now, if someone said, okay, identify the era and what's going on in this picture, just showed you a picture of one of the scenes in this, you say, well, that's inside of a UFO from a TV show in the 70s. That's kind of how it looks, and that's exactly how it looks in this. It's kind of fun. But there's the third act in particular has some really interesting stuff in terms of paranoia. In many ways, it's riffing on something like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's a touch of that about it. There's a touch of Invaders on Mars about it. There's creepy kids, which is always quite effective, even in a TV show, because kids being creepy just freaks people out more than adults being creepy. That's just the way it is. I'm not quite sure why, but I think all adults are a little timid of children because they're so unpredictable. It might be that, right? So there's also similar stories to this in later episodes of the X-Files, which came after this. For example, there's I think one called Gender Bender, where they find a community of what appear to be kind of Amish types, but it turns out they're aliens who can gender swap. We're just living on Earth. Weirdly, not really connected to the main X-Files mythology of aliens and stuff, just their own thing. So that episode, I thought of that episode when I was watching this too. This isn't bad. As I say, it's on YouTube. it's probably worth a bit of a look. It's one of those kind of forgotten ones. Everyone knows Tales of the Unexpected. Worldwide, I imagine, is the Roald Dahl thing. But this was Quinn Martin's Tales of the Unexpected. Just a coincidence in the naming. Okay, I'm going to wind out there. This is a big recommend. I'm not going to spoil any more about the story. Not a big recommend, but a solid recommend, I'd say, from me. But I think it's time to wind out there. But before I go, I ask... is there anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to